really this conference is all about the inspiration of the rank and file member who can find answers to their organizing issues in each other.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We figured it would be fitting to kick off our show that we pre-taped because we're going to be at Labor Notes. We figured it would be fitting to kick it off by talking about Labor Notes, by talking about the convention. And so our first interview today is with Jonah Furman, a staff writer at Labor Notes and a person who is doing a lot of work to put together this convention. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Play that interview with Jonah Furman. So I've got with me Jonah Furman. Jonah Furman is a staff writer for Labor Notes, and he is currently busy as a bee putting together a convention for Labor Notes to which 4,000 union members and workers, labor activists across the country are going to be attending in Chicago, Illinois. Jonah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. I know that you're really busy, so I really do appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Adam and I are extremely excited as well. I have been preparing all day, mostly by washing my car that I have not washed in years since we're going to be having a caravan up there and I'm the one driving. So I figured I should clear out the trash and everything. But
a good organizer's car is always messy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's not even necessarily because I'm doing organizing stuff. It's just that I eat a lot of fast food and I just throw the bags in the floorboards.
True.
So, Jonah, talk to us first about, I guess, before we get into the convention. Give me just an elevator pitch. Labor Notes. What is Labor Notes?
Sure. Yeah, Labor Notes is we call it a media and organizing project. It's been around since 1979, and it's basically half journalism about the labor movement from the bottom up, from the perspective of members, especially members who are pushing their unions in a direction of more strikes, more inclusion, more union democracy, challenging the status quo. And then the other half is the organizing side, which is trainings and connecting people, building networks, member-to-member networks in the labor movement that can, create organization that can push the labor movement to do more, to be more democratic, to be more militant, and to connect member to member, shop steward to shop steward, local president to local president, connect people across unions, across industries. So those are the two big things we do, and we've been doing it for 45 years and have, managed to create something like a different pole in the labor movement, right? So something that's pushing against the status quo and putting forward a different vision of how our unions can operate.
I think y'all do an excellent job at that. I think looking back at, say, the John Deere strike in a similar way that Kim Kelly has kind of become the national face of, or a national voice on the mine worker strike, I think that you in particular, and then by extension Labor Notes, were kind of a national voice for the John Deere strike, and I think that was very important, and y'all did a lot of good stuff there. A lot of good reporting on issues with the carpenters up in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, just any kind of really important labor issue, y'all are generally speaking on top of it and doing the reporting and storytelling in a way that not a lot of people are, which is to talk to the workers and kind of see what they have to say. So that's a really...
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think those are two good examples of sort of what makes Labor Notes different is we'll help people tell their stories, and we'll listen to the rank and file members and see what they have to say. But then we'll bring them in if they want to get connected with other workers or they're going through a situation they're trying to figure out. John Deere was a situation where you had members voting down the contract over and over, so they weren't going to the union for how can I vote down my contract better? How can I organize for this? So now at our Labor Notes conference, for example, we have Seattle carpenters and John Deere strikers who are coming out to keep deepening not just their storytelling and their reporting, but deepen their organizing skills and connections with workers across industries, usually, again, who are challenging their unions to be better, be more militant, be more inclusive, be more democratic.
Why is it important? And then we'll have a good segue into the convention. Why is it important that unions be more militant and democratic? Why is that something that working people that are listening on the radio right now, that are in unions or not in unions, why would it be that I would want the labor movement to be more militant and democratic?
Well, obviously, for even people not in unions, stronger unions have important social benefits, right? So you see like stronger unions with more members of unions in society as a whole means less income inequality. It means bigger social safety net, means, just in general, it trends towards things that help people, even if they're not in a union. So, why would you need to push on the unions to do more is because in the U.S., as people probably know, the union movement has been in decline or stagnation for at least 40 years, So the status quo in the union movement, just like we see in politics, just like we see in a lot of parts of our lives, the status quo has been falling apart for unions, for most unions, for many decades. And what it's going to take to turn things around is, in part, those members of those unions demanding more, pushing their unions to change course, organize more, strike more. Specifically militancy, we can't have a union movement that's just playing defense. You have to be not scared to fight for what's right, fight for what you deserve, to strike when it comes down to it, to organize new shops and not just defend a shrinking slice of the pie. So that's sort of the big picture context is we've had a union movement in this country that has played defense and not played great defense for many decades. Not every union, not every industry, but that's the broad trend. And we support people who are trying to turn that around by challenging the unions to do more than they're currently doing. Because, and we think the knock-on effects of that are important for all workers, even if you're not in a union.
And so this convention, what is it doing to, what is its general purpose as a convention, and how is it going to be furthering those goals?
Yeah, so, the overview is we gather every 2 years. This one is the first one in 4 years because of the pandemic. We had to cancel in 2020. But we gather every 2 years, and for example, this time around we have 4,000 attendees who will be from unions of every industry, from every state. Several countries will be represented, and they'll have over 250 sessions and workshops and meetups that are everything from training on how to bargain a union contract to meetups across the auto industry to panels about, we have panels on how the John Deere strike went, how the Starbucks workers are organizing. So a lot of it is just about connecting the people who are looking for a better labor movement, helping them find each other, talk to each other, and learn from one another. A big thing we believe is, people learn from, you don't look up for guidance. You look side to side. You look to your fellow members. And a lot of what we do is just put people in a room where they can get some of the skills and have some of the conversations that they're looking for as they push for a stronger labor movement.
Mm-hmm. And I would, you can find the conference agenda on their website now, labornotes.org or .com?
.org.
Labornotes.org. And just from some of the panels that I have knowledge of now, not having set my own personal itinerary yet, I'm facilitating a panel on organizing the South. Who is it that Labor Notes has pulled together for me to facilitate a conversation between? It's not between the international president of, a million workers who's been off the shop floor, potentially his whole career or her whole career, or has been off the floor for a really long time, even though, there's certainly something to be said for talking to international presidents. But who is it that I'm speaking to? I'm speaking to an Amazon worker in Alabama, an Amazon worker in North Carolina, both of whom have been involved in the organizing campaigns. I'm speaking to a municipal employee in North Carolina, member of UE Local 150, and I'm speaking to a Virginia teacher, member of the Virginia Education Association, about organizing the South. There's a panel that I am interested in going to, facilitated by Dave Camper, about being on strike with workers who are currently on strike. There's a federal worker meetup that I'm excited to go to as a federal employee, which is literally just going to be a meetup of federal employees talking about their jobs, talking about how they're organizing, talking about what's not going well in their organizing. And it's 4,000 people that are really, really excited about doing this kind of stuff and really dedicated to this kind of stuff and to the organizing and to each other and to the working class. It's just, I'm incredibly, incredibly excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things to bring out what you're talking about, we have a book called Democracy is Power, and that's one of the things we talk about the most is union democracy. And that doesn't just mean getting the right to elect your leader, of your international union, although that's important stuff. It really means having a culture where the worker on the shop floor, on the front line, the worker who lives the job, has the knowledge to decide what should happen in their union and in their workplace, right? So what we believe is we certainly are glad to have international presidents. We're glad to have local presidents. We're glad to have, people with some sort of official positions. But really this conference is all about the knowledge and skill and, inspiration of the member, the rank and file member who we believe as an organization is empowered to make decisions, has specialized knowledge that should be shared, and can find answers to their organizing issues in each other. Don't need to look to an expert necessarily, don't need to look to an official leader necessarily, just need to get together and have confidence in the idea of democratic unionism, where members really do get to decide what happens. So that's the spirit of the thing. That's why we focus on having members speak about their experience and not necessarily someone who's been on staff for 30 years just because, they've been trained and paid to do it. We believe that rank and file members are the ones who have that special insight. And we also believe that's not brought up, enough elsewhere. It's just not what we do in our society. We don't give rank and file workers control over their destinies, and we don't put them at the front of the room, and we don't listen to them. So that's part of what we try to do at Labor Notes.
What are some of the things that you're looking forward to most at the convention? Any particular panel or meetup or anything like that you're particularly excited about?
Oh, man, that's really hard to choose. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. We have the conference every 2 years, and there's sort of exciting big events that happen every time. We have a lot of important speakers that are exciting. But the things I really am thinking about are what we do between the conferences. So we have, we've been building a network of shop stewards who have these online trainings every month. I'm really excited to see how many of these shop stewards can show up and get connected to one another and what they're going to build over the next 2 years between our next meetup. The industry meetups are really exciting to me. We've had a lot of Labor Notes conferences where you'll have people meet up in a certain industry, and then between the conferences, they say, let's keep talking, let's keep working with one another, let's build something that can move our union. So I'm really excited to see, it's going to be a great weekend, but what it's really all about for me is what's going to come out of this? What seeds are we going to plant that are going to bloom over the next 2 years, and how can we help that happen? Some of the big headline stuff is we're really excited to have Senator Bernie Sanders speaking on Friday night. We're excited to have the president of the Teamsters, Sean O'Brien, Sarah Nelson from the flight attendants will be here, Stacey Davis Gates from the Chicago Teachers Union, Chris Smalls from the Amazon Labor Union, Michelle Eisen from the Starbucks workers. So we really do have a good group of leaders that we're honored to have there. But for me, it really is all about what's going to happen, even just over beers. Who's going to connect to one another? What organizations will they form? What fights will they be inspired to keep going over the next 2 years before we meet again?
Some of this stuff is going to be live streamed. I think whatever it is that Bernie Sanders is participating in, and there's a main session, I believe, every night that's going to be live streamed, and this is going to be airing on Saturday morning, and so some of it will have already happened. Where can people watch the live stream live, and then afterwards, will you be able to go back and watch it even if it's not live?
Yeah, I think if you go to our website, labornotes.org, you'll find a sign up to get the links to the live stream, but you can also just check us out on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. So any social media you use. I think we just started an Instagram account. So if you use social media, we will likely have our stuff shared, at the time. At that point, you'll see our schedule. We're live streaming about 7 sessions from Friday through the day, Saturday morning and afternoon, and then Sunday afternoon. And everything from, we'll have speakers on the Black Lives Matter movement and Juneteenth. We'll have Bernie Sanders, of course. We'll have Sarah Nelson talking about strikes. So you can check out our full program. I would recommend people check out our social media. On every platform, we're just Labor Notes, just how it sounds, LABORNOTES. And you can catch us there. Yeah.
All right. Jonah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Really looking forward to getting together with 3,999 of my fellow workers talking about how to make the world better. How many people were at the 2018 convention?
It's a good question. Something like 3,000. So if we continue on this trajectory, we're going to explode. This was the first year I'm aware of that we had to strictly cap attendance. So, if you know of a venue that can hold 6,000 people in 2024, we should talk.
Well, we just finished building an amphitheater in Huntsville. So.
Yeah, well, maybe we need a Huntsville conference. Yeah, true.
Jonah, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do, and I'm excited to see you this weekend.
All right, see you in a bit.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.